Please start. Good evening, everyone. My name is Dian Mikhailov. I will be the moderator of this discussion today. I will start by introducing our community, a short intro of Product Tank Sofia. Product Tank started in London in 2010. Basically, some product managers gathered in a pub, where else in London, in order to meet each other, network, and share knowledge about the trade. The profession wasn't that popular at that time, so that came naturally as a network event. Now, 10 years later, those informal networkings became formal monthly events in over 185 cities around the world. The community has more than 80,000 members, and basically in 2015 we established Product Tank Sofia in Bulgaria. As I said, I'm Dido. The other organizers here in Sofia are Maria Rashkovska and Boris Rangelov. Find us on LinkedIn. Feel free to drop us a message if you want to know more about the community. The monthly events, basically we invite companies and people with product experience to actually share on a topic that they feel interested and passionate about. Some of the companies that already presented, you can see them: Viber, Financial Times, PaySafe, Lindblom, and so on. Basically, a little bit more about the community. First of all, we have a Facebook here in Bulgaria with over 1,400 people. You have the monthly meetups in Sofia, just like this one. We try to have them every month. Then we have the global blog, which is at www.mindtheproduct.com, where we share content from all the Product Tank events around the world, just like this one. You can go and read write-ups from the event, watch videos, or even just read articles about different topics connected to product management. Some companies are also interested in trainings, which we organize. You can check them on the same website. They could be in-house, they could be public, and so on. And then we have the 3 annual conferences, which unfortunately this year probably will not happen, but they are some of the best product conferences in the world. They happen in Singapore, San Francisco, and London. And on the same website, you can actually check them out. And when things get normal again, or the new normal, you can try and get to one of them in the area. We highly recommend that one. As I mentioned, we have a local Facebook page, which we really encourage you to join. There you can find job ads. You can find lots of useful articles that people share, some good discussions on product management, how to become a product manager, and so on. You can search on Product Tank Sofia community, and then you can request us to join the group. All right, so tonight we have a panel discussion on adapting your business operations and product under pressure. We have 3 really interesting and experienced participants in the panel. We have Miroslav Zaporozhanov. He's the co-founder and chief marketing officer of Colibra, and probably a lot of you know, formerly he also co-founded Zapo Media, one of the advertising agencies in Bulgaria. We have Velizar Velichkov, Vizo. He graduated the NATFIS, National Academy of Theatre and Film Arts, but also he helped found Grabo.bg, and recently he's a partner and chief operating officer at One for Fit. And then finally we have Rossen Genchev, who has over 20 years experience in the software industry, some exits from companies he worked for, and currently is the founder and CEO of BioSeek. All right, so as soon as I stop sharing my screen now. All right, so welcome everyone, the people that join us, and welcome to all the participants. Now, I'm gonna ask the first question. Basically, since the panel has this topic and there's been a lot of discussion during the last 2 months on how everything changed, on how companies, some of them are resilient, some of them are not. What is resilience exactly? What is the new normal, and so on? For example, whether in Bulgaria we should move from outsourcing to product faster than we're doing now, and is that something better for us? So in this sense, Roska, I wanted to ask you, what is your view on this? What are the most resilient companies that you think will survive this, and what can we do as an ecosystem to actually encourage those?
Okay, my point is that first of all, the most vulnerable part of the sector is outsourcing. Especially it's related to transportation industry or tourism, or the most affected industries by the crisis. And I think the switching from outsourcing to product, it's vital to survive. And end of the day, I think this crisis is gonna bring something better to industry at all. And that's my move to the product sector, focus on online services, rethink your business as fast as possible, use your current innovation, adapt your current innovation to something that is, let's say, it shouldn't be close to your business, but in technology, if you can do it very quickly. And Darwin once said that it's not the strongest survive. The adapting to the changes is the most critical survival skill. So, in our aspect, we are luckily related to biotech industry, and we are not strongly affected by the current crisis. But even in our situation, we invest in particular new product. We create a very fast MVP that is related to managing the pandemic situation. So we are the first company in the world that created a ERP system for managing the pandemic, and that's because we see the opportunity in the crisis. I think this point of view is the most important to survive, not only to survive, but to exit stronger from the current situation. Okay.
So you managed to launch a new product in these times. Can you tell us more about the experience? How was it? Was it as you'd launch a product normally? What was different?
Yeah, it was very easy launch. We just spent 5 weeks without weekends, and we see the crisis as something that is, there is a new market that is currently creating currently. So think about it. Every 4 years for now, probably it's statistical. There is gonna be same situation, and will continue over and over. So we look at this as a particular opportunity. There is no product on the market for managing the whole. I always wonder about project management of some big things like war. Think about how it's complex to manage the war. All process in the war, you have to track it, to manage it, to improve it, to run some analytics over the data. And a pandemic is some kind of war, and we use a lot of our current expertise, create for 5 weeks. I think let's say, we hope a very interesting product.
Sounds good. We'll get back to this. We had some interest with questions that came from the community about products that were specifically created to tackle the pandemic and how resilient they will be. But we'll discuss that a little bit later when we get back to that. By the way, everyone that is joining us, feel free to ask your questions in the chat panel to the right, and we'll, of course, discuss them. So, something else, Miro, you told me when we talked before this discussion that since your company has a direct correlation with how the airline industry is doing, you had to rethink some of your product and probably your business model, and you came up with ideas on how to actually tackle the pandemic and be resilient. Can you tell us a little bit more about this experience and what did you guys do and how?
Yeah, sure. So we were in front of a very big problem because our model was built on the assumption that there would no be a worldwide force majeure like COVID. So at one point of time, we have a lot of cancellations. Basically, all of the flights are getting canceled, and they're getting canceled because of a force majeure. And we, according to our terms and conditions, we have to pay all of them. And if we continue to with those terms and conditions, we actually give people free money because they can arbitrage. They can buy a ticket for, say, 19 euro. They can register it in Colibra, and they can get 70 euro in say a week. So the first thing we had to do is to trim our tail risk, meaning that we had to stop covering cancellations that are attributable to COVID. Then what we had to do is we started thinking about, okay, if travel is very bad right now, what would be the next problems that would create very big opportunities? And some of those problems are related to refunds. And because airlines are not able to pay their customers refunds directly currently because of cash constraints, and they're offering vouchers, but to be quite frank, there aren't many passengers that would choose a voucher over cash money, especially in this situation. So what we started thinking about and just sourcing with airlines and with our financial partners was whether we can build a financial product that is giving money to the airline that basically allows them to refund part of their customers. We take some cuts because they give them 100% of their tickets in not totally in cash, but some part in cash, some part in other products. Currently, we're working on several variations of this, and we are very ahead of structuring such a product, because there would be a lot of millions, totally tens of millions of people that would have to receive a refund from the airline in the next, say, 9 months or 12 months, because airlines would not choose to repay or to refund those tickets, especially if the traffic continues to be or doesn't rebound as quickly as they forecast. So we're thinking about additional products that are a very big market for us at the moment, and the refund market is an enormous market. If we hit this product right, it would mean that immediately we go into the tens of millions of euro in revenue, because we will have the distribution and the market that nobody addresses currently. The way I would look at it, and what I would recommend people to think about is what markets are being created right now that someone could give you or has the interest to give you the distribution to that market, because his company cannot solve this problem alone. If it is a service or a product, it doesn't matter. But as Rossen pointed out, I mean, people or companies would require certain products or solutions because there is a new need that is arising. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's it.
Okay, sounds good. You were quite through a journey. We'll get back to that as well. Viso, there was one thing that actually everybody noticed, and we just can't hide it, and that's like suddenly everyone wanted everything delivered online on their doorstep. And even if you didn't want that before, now you just had to deal with this. So my question to you is, let's say, what are the success factors that you could think of if a business wants to actually, let's say, either change some of its operations to include online parts, but also maybe to rework and rethink and become entirely an online business, as compared to, for example, let's say, having to buy something in a physical store or go get it yourself and so on?
It's a hard question in my view. The Corona crisis came like a tsunami in all of us. And in Grabo.bg, for example, it was a 95% drop, 95 guys. So it's an online business, Grabo.bg, but we are selling services. We're not selling products. So we tried to shift into products, but it was very hard to make it, because we've been doing this for like 10 years. But we made something else. We tried to use this time to rebuild our brand as a brand loyalty, as a credibility. We made a campaign to save the Bulgarian business. It was like that, the name of the campaign. We pushed a TV advertising for that campaign. So you can buy a voucher, and after that use it when the crisis is over, and we can try to save the Bulgarian business and try to make something good. So this was good for us, not finance-wise, but as a brand awareness and as a brand identity and brand loyalty and all these beautiful stuff that are not related to money at all. But it worked in my view. It worked very good. Grabo is a company for like 10 years. We have our, let's say, finance fats, so we can sustain these for like another 3-4 months. I don't know. I think it's gonna be less. I hope that. But these kind of moves are very good, and in such kind of times you must be flexible. It's not you must be flexible. In the other company that I'm related with, it's One for Fit. We're selling online personalized meal plans based on social media celebrities, and it's a global company. We're selling in, I don't know, 180 markets, even more, almost everywhere. So there we had a problem also because the product is based on vanity. Let's say it's not a necessity product that you need to buy it. It's not a food, it's not a toilet paper or whatever. And at the beginning of the crisis, it was like that. And after that, other people, because we're selling diets, other people started to look themselves like there is a problem. Let's say that you're staying at home, you're not working out, and you're not making anything for you. So we try to shift our product into more not so diet product, but more healthier one. We try to shift our meal plans. We put a lot of effort into it, and it started working. So it's okay. So at the end, I must say that in these days you should think out of the box. You must think out of the box, because the days are out of the box. We never. I've never seen such kind of days. I'm sure that my parents never seen such kind of days. Maybe my grandparents or the Spanish influencer, but it was 100 years ago. So these days are out of the box, and we must think out of the box, or we're gonna I don't know. So this is it.
That was an interesting point. In times of crisis, you actually invested in marketing and branding, which is something that, by the way, a lot of people recommend in a lot of different articles, that you shouldn't cut on advertising or marketing or branding, but you should actually invest proactively. Can you tell us a little bit more? What was the rationale for that? What did you guys have in mind as a strategy to do that? Or maybe what are the long-term gains that you expect from this move?
We tried to make the brand, because Grabo.bg is a very famous brand in Bulgaria, but most of the people think about the brand that it's a cheap place for finding cheap offers. And we tried to make the brand stronger into the human head, like there is something else into this brand. We're going to help the business, and we're going to start working for the business. And actually, we made it. The campaign didn't bring so much customers, but as a brand awareness, it was very, very good and very recognizable. And it was two added values, this campaign. The first was as a customer added value, because a lot of customers hear about us that we try to help, not only take some money or whatever. It was the first added value. And the second added value was a B2B, because a lot of businesses was like that, oh, Grabo, maybe it's a good idea. Maybe these guys, they're not so cheap anymore. Maybe these guys, they are a kind of guys that want to help or whatever. So we bring a new clients as a business partners as our B2B added value, and the new customers or the old one that come back. Let's say this was but in Grabo it's easy, guys. It's not like the situation in Miro is a very hard, and they were like we had this 95% drop, but I know that now it's gonna be easier for us to come back. But Miro can tell us a lot of stuff that they were through a disaster, I guess, and through a lot of complicated things, because the business is related with flights. Can you imagine that?
Yes, actually, good point, very good point, which leads to one of the other questions that I was thinking to ask all of you today. You actually also mentioned that you had to, in a way, troubleshoot and possibly pivot at some point, or maybe change your business. So I was wondering, how do you guys know when a business actually has run its course and you need to pivot into something else or change? What is the algorithm you use to find that out? Anyone can actually take that.
Okay, pivoting is, I think it's a vital part of the DNA of the startup, because you are a small company, you have freedom to move, and you have to use it carefully, because it can be a very powerful weapon, but also can be a very dangerous move, because if you pivot in first situation that you face some problem, you are going to pivot it forever until you run out of money. So, so my algorithm is, let's pivot, but keep your expertise, especially in technology and market, in the first place. So, if you are creating, in our case, searching for biotech scientific papers, don't pivot to do something in, let's say, a hotel industry, whatever. Just keep it focused on the industry, and use as much as knowledge as you have. Because if for example, I told you that we created a product that is related to a pandemic, but I don't consider this as a pivoting. It's using our current know-how just to use this opportunity. And if we are going to, if I thought to my investor, okay, during this crisis we are going to move to, let's say, fashion industry, they're going to kill me. So that's my algorithm. Use your knowledge, use your technology stack, use your marketing expertise, pivot, test it. If it's work, continue to test, and that's for me.
And what are the signs that, or the early signs from which you can say, okay, now we need to change something? It doesn't work. For example, our product is not quite okay. Can you share some of your experience, maybe?
Yeah, in our case, we are purely online business, so you can see it with Google Analytics or similar tools. That if you're going to release, or you release a mobile application, you can see we have a very detailed analytics. So you cannot understand the process if you don't have measurements. So the measurements should be built before you are going to do something, because you cannot fight with fire when you are blindfolded. So you first invest in your measurement tools, and then you can make the right, you can possibly make the right decisions. So in our case, for example, we start another pattern that is for patients that we are going to. It's a very simple platform. It's very close to Reddit, and we have a really huge amount of traffic just for let's say 5 weeks. We attract more than 100,000 visits, just translating articles from science space to let's say to patients. But it's a part of the algorithm. Measurement first.
Miro, what do you think?
Well, I think that you have to pivot. You have to be certain that that you have falsified your assumptions somehow, either by some data from the market, meaning something changed, like the user behavior changed, which impacted on the prices, on your revenue, or the whole industry changed, or the whole market dynamics changed. The demand supply shifted in a big way, or for example, something is not working with your product for the current environment or for the current situation. So with us, we have a few choices. Either we continue working on our product as planned, or we continue working on our product as planned and innovate in some other domains, because the the industry so far doesn't seem to have changed a lot, but the new markets that are being created because of this crisis presents an enormous opportunity, and if this happens to add on to the product itself without requiring a major shift in the business model, then I think this is a good step to take. Although I don't think there is a certain formula when to pivot. I think it's entirely subjective to financing, to market dynamics, to even to the entrepreneur's hunch. To say, I mean, sometimes you just sense that the course that you have taken so far is not the right one, or that there is a better one. So you just go on and take the risk.
Lizo, do you want to add anything? Actually, one thing that I really wanted to ask you is, when you guys started Grabo back in the days, how did you kind of orient yourselves in the market and the customers? How did you find out, for example, what segments to target and so on?
It was based on instinct, let's say, as Miro told, and it's normal. First, we tried to copy the Groupon at like a 100% copy, and it doesn't work because it's Bulgaria and it's a different market with a different behavior of the user, and everything is different. Of course, the basic idea is the same, and in the product itself, like the basic one, it's the same, but we made a lot of changes. And the changes are the verticals that we're selling, first of all, and second, a lot of stuff like the features and everything that we have. But it's interesting that Grabo and the daily deal model, it raised after the crisis. So it's a model that feeds when there is a crisis, because the model we're looking for discounts, and we're like a proxy between the customer and the business, and we're the proxy between them. So I'm an optimist for Grabo. Of course, these 1, 2, 3 months, they're going to be very hard because we have 100 people who are working into the website. So it's a kind of a tricky moment finance-wise, but I'm absolutely sure that this model is going to work very good in next year for sure. And we're going to change a lot of stuff, and I want to make the brand a little bit more for let's say for upper middle class, because a lot of people for this class skip the brand because they think that it's a cheap place. So we're gonna use this crisis as an opportunity to bring a lot of businesses who are more valuable for people, as a B2B strategy that we have for the next, let's say, 6 months. And I think that the crisis is gonna help us. Unfortunately, I'm telling it, because the crisis couldn't be good at all. But you should search for like a shortcuts when there is such kind of a event that is completely, I don't know, nobody sees such kind of thing. So
one question.
Yep.
One question. I think there is two vectors of movement in crisis. One is from outsourcing or services to product, and another is from B2C to B2B. So what do you think about it? Do you think in the time of crisis, B2B is more viable way to do business than B2C?
I'm not sure. It depends on the business and the vertical that you're working in. I've been always doing in B2C at the end of the day, but in Grabo we have B2B because we're taking the service from the business and giving it to the customer. But at the end of the day, we're B2C service, so we are selling out our service to the customers. The problem in the crisis in B2B relationship is that it's too fragile, let's say, and all the business area is too fragile. But if you are innovative and if you think out of the box, as I told in the first monologue that I had, you must succeed, in my view. I don't know.
Good point. Good point. Never let a good crisis go waste, right?
Yeah.
Without making some money.
Can I add something here? So because Rossen asked a very good question, and I think that this entirely depends on the supply chains that are being affected most during this crisis, because some supply chains that are more direct, like in the Vizos example with Grabo, I mean, they're totally crushed. I mean, nobody uses services during a quarantine. You know, nobody goes to a massage studio or to a hotel. Nobody, literally nobody. So so the way I would look at it is how the supply chain changed. Where there is a torrent supply chain that creates demand, and this can be with some B2B businesses, it can be with some B2C businesses, because at the end of the day, people want to spend their money, and they will spend it somewhere. The question is how this behavior will change. And those are questions that we cannot just theoretically think of. We need to test a lot, and something that I would recommend is if you have an idea for a product at the moment or a service, or doesn't matter. I mean, nowadays you can build a landing page and run a Facebook ads or any type of ads in a matter of a day. So you can just try to quickly see whether there is demand, whether there is some traction, even if it is a change value proposition or addressing a new market segment, a new vertical, a new type of product, some innovation. I mean, just test rapidly, because nowadays everything moves so quickly, and you don't know from which hole the rabbit would pop up. So yeah.
So you mentioned one technique, for example, some Facebook banner, and you can probably see what the interest is for this. Can you guys think of any other techniques that you have used and showed good results to test ideas for products?
It depends a lot of the product. I don't know how to, as marketing, I can tell you that before you develop the world, like 6 months of developing everything, maybe you should try to make a little landing page presenting the product, not taking the money, and look at the interest of the people. Because sometimes our ideas sounds in our heads in a very, very interesting way, like we're gonna change the world, but unfortunately,
but they're just
at the end of the day, I was not gonna use this, but yeah, this is the truth. So I always been thinking about first test, and after that developing, especially these days, because the developing was become so expensive and so slow and so complicated. And 10 years ago it was a completely different, because it was only for desktop, only to, I don't know, one language. It was easier for sure. Nowadays you're making for this, you're making iOS, but Android, everything is different.
I disagree with you. Nowadays you can launch application in the cloud that can handle millions of requests per hour. Before 10 years, you need a lot of work, buying servers, hosting, whatever. I think now, in technology-wise, it's a very easy time to create something that can be a new WhatsApp or new Facebook or whatever, just because the technology evolved, and you can do it practically with no. We can spin off a cluster in Amazon for $10.
I'm laughing because you're speaking as a developer, and you are a developer, and I want you to be right and to be like that. And I'm speaking at the other side that the developing is the hardest part in my view. So it's the first time I'm checking. After that, I'm testing again. After that, I'm testing again, and at the final step, we're going for the big developing task to our ninjas.
The funny part, I think the marketing is the most complex part, and you think that development is so that's good.
Good, guys. That is actually one of the common things we as product people encounter. Disciplines meeting each other. One thinks the other thing is complicated, and so on. As long as we are on the same page at the end, I think marvelous things happen. But to get back to our discussion, you all mentioned that in times of crisis, you can get a huge advantage. You can even develop products to actually deal with the crisis. So we also had some here in Bulgaria, the mobile applications. Rossen mentioned another one that were specifically created to deal with the pandemic. I was wondering what you think about those products. Do you think that they will be resilient in the long term, meaning that after the pandemic is over, and provided that we don't have pandemic every 6 months, a different one every 6 months, I hope not. Do you think that those products hold a good advantage to actually continue to exist afterwards, or are those just the types of products that will be activated and then deactivated afterwards? What do you guys think about this?
Well, let me start first here, because I've been thinking about this for the last several weeks, and the way I would put it is, what is the main asset that this product actually generates or creates? I mean, is it just matching people, or is it just sending information or giving information? Because if it is giving information to the end user, when the user doesn't want this information anymore, I mean, what happens then? The way I would look at it is what is the single most the single biggest asset that you're creating with this product. And in my sense, this can be played.
Miro, I think you are dropping out.
I think Miro is literally offline.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, something happened. Yep, now I guess it's
I think he'll rejoin, but
yeah.
What do you guys think?
Yep.
Or Visual?
So personally, there is let's say a short-term product and long-term product. A short-term, if you want to create another stupid tracking app, it's okay, but no one is going to use it. What we think as a product, and first of all, what is the problem? The problem is pandemic. Pandemic is cost currently $30 trillion worldwide. Was so first of all, it's a market. So if your product can reduce this with let's say even 1%, it's a 3 billion product market. So first of all, there is need. Second, is it a temporal product that after 6 months going to disappear? It's a very hard question, because I think it's not. Any government, any health institution needs to track this possible situation with let's say algorithms in information infrastructure, and that's created the new market. But most important part of the solution that we believe is the privacy of the people, because you cannot track pandemic like, let's say, in China. You can do it in China, but you can't do it in Germany. You cannot force people to use a mobile application, and if they don't use it, you can put them in the jail. It just doesn't work in Europe. So here is the tricky part. So if you address the benefits of the tracking application, of the managing the situation, but in complete privacy, I think you can use this technology in the whole healthcare system. Because think about it, if you have some centralized servers that hold the all information about the health of the people, what drugs they're using, what disease they're diagnosed, whatever. It's a very sensitive information. It can be used by insurance company, it can be used by employers, it can be it's a disaster if someone gets this information, like happened in Bulgaria with NAP. So what we are creating is we create a personal digital ID, which is change over time. So it's a totally untrackable. You can use it. Still, you can upload information that is used by the government, but it's a complete not trackable to you personally. So I think this is how you can use the problems in the current situation, and to create a product that, because I know how the healthcare system, for example, in Germany, they use a standard database. If someone hacks the database, they can see your health record. But if you are just a number in this database, I think it's a big opportunity. It's a beyond the crisis. It's a beyond pandemic, and we think our technology. I'm not going to pitch. I don't want to use this to pitch our technology, but it can be some other company. If you can bring all benefits of e-health, but in pure privacy way, it can be a huge market, especially in liberal democratic states.
Miro, you are back with us now. Do you want to finish what you were about to say? I think you are mute.
My point is that before you create a product, or before you made a pivot, you should think of the main asset that this product actually creates. Because any product is not just solving a need, it is creating an asset that will continue to fulfill this need or desire in the customer. So we need to think of what this would be, and how we can monetize this asset in terms of business models, in terms of whether we can recycle it or resell the data, or change something that will make us money. Because it's not about solving needs, it's not about creating products, it's about surviving, so every company first rule should be, I want to survive for as long as possible. Second rule would be, to survive I have to be profitable and have cash at hand. which means that I have to create assets that generate this cash in time. So this is what I just wanted to add.
Miro, it's a war between the concepts, West Coast and East Coast VC. So if you're going to New York, and the VCC New York and Boston wants to see a startup that can make money from day one. If you're going to California, they just want to create a happy people. They don't care about money because they think there is no right or wrong way. I think it's very interesting discussion. This discussion in especially in Bulgaria. Bulgarian investor preferred the model that you can make money as fast as possible, and I think it's a good, but also it prevents us to create something huge, because if you are focusing to think about Facebook, if the Facebook try to create the money from the first day they launch, they never be such a big company like now.
I have to agree here with you, but we have to take into consideration the fact that things are changing very fast. So yeah, even if you want to create something big, you need to bridge it step by step. I mean, you just have to merge the large vision with the dynamically, very quickly changing environment of the markets, and we see that a lot of the business plans. We see what SoftBank is doing. I mean, it is totally withdrawing from a lot of startups. I mean, OneLink is such a startup that it has a big vision for the centralized internet, and they just practically said, I mean, we are letting you go bankrupt. I mean, it's regardless of the big vision, because it may require a lot of money to be poured in before there is a profit. And what I just meant is that we have to think of a business model or monetization model before we just dive deep into solving a need, because at the end of the day, it might turn out that it's very, very hard to monetize something.
Yeah, but Twitter is still not profitable. Uber is burning money like crazy, and I think there is I personally believe in the Californian model. I think if you put the monetization in the first place, it limits your ideas. It limits your but it can be very pragmatical. You can create a lot of cash, but you cannot create Google. You cannot create Facebook. That's it. Of course, I'm not. That's my opinion.
So
it's easier. I wanted to add that it's easier when you're in California. You have all the money on the planet. So they are growing on the trees. If you're part of their boys club, or I don't know how they say it, and you can spend, and at the fourth time that you spend the 4 million, okay, you're gonna make something, but it's not a fair game. They cannot compete with our mindset. Our mindset is ROAS. Okay, we want to return the money. We're with the European mindset. The European mindset is the old European money. They're based on real estate. They're not based on startups. Startup is like a risky investment, and like 10% of the investors go to startup, and 90% go to Switzerland or whatever. So it's a different game, completely different, and that's why the States had all these unicorns, but they are losing. Do you know that 97% of all the startups in the Silicon Valley are total fail? Like they're losing hundreds of millions. And the examples that you already gave us, they are like a plenty. They are not limited only with Twitter and Uber, Dropbox. There are plenty of it.
You are right and wrong, because yes, mortality rate in startups in California is about 90%, but the money that the venture capitalists create from the another parts, covering all their expenses.
Of course.
And
I agree.
and that's why cultural, I prefer Americans, because the Americans are cowboys. They risk. They just do not afraid to lose. And Europeans, think about the bravest people from Europe goes long time ago went from Europe to America, and this culture for risking, for changing the world, I think it's preventing Europe to be a IT hub. And with this mindset, I think that Europe will never be. Of course, it's very good.
I'm absolutely agree with you. That was my point, actually. That was it. Yeah.
Just to finish, and that's very good for industries like banking, like pharma industries, because you cannot think about startup way in this traditional industry, and that's why I think okay, sorry. America is the best place.
Yet we have all chosen to be here in Bulgaria. So I just wanted to ask you guys, since you have chosen to start your companies here, what are the advantages that we have as product builders here? And what are some of maybe the things that we are lacking and we need to add?
So,
okay, let me start. So the advantages is that we are not running at the same environment, at the same speed with the US, meaning that we can see things differently. I think that here we have an amazing engineering power. We can create amazing products here. We have the right people. Currently, I don't see a lot of companies being bold enough to pursue global markets. Maybe this is related to what Rossen said, because in the US the mindset is different, and they aim at moonshots, so to speak. But here I think we are very good at engineering, and this is and since we are very dense, very focused in Sofia, I think that we can build a very good engineering community, and if we combine it with good marketing and bold vision, I mean, we can have a lot of prosperity ahead of us.
I totally agree with Miro. In Bulgaria, I think the biggest asset is the engineers, but we have problems with people that are in marketing career or sales, especially enterprise sales. It's something that is totally missing in Bulgaria, and I always wondering, as a developer, I always try to get some code that works very well to put in our product, and probably I'm wondering, what do you think about it? Israel is a country that is like Bulgaria, like demographics or whatever. They managed to create the second most vital startup ecosystem in the world. In some aspects, that it's even better than United States. What is the secret, and is it possible to create it in Bulgaria? Sorry, I'm raising another question, but just wondering why we cannot do the same step like Israel or Singapore or Taiwan in Bulgaria. It's very similar, like demographics, and I believe if we use the same practice, it can be we can create Bulgaria as a very vital hub for innovations here.
So what is some of Israel's advantages that you think we can actually use?
I don't know. I have a lot of friends that are from Israel working there, but I think first of all there is a government policy about developing startup. So if there is a need of some kind of software for the government, it can be anything. They don't go to well-established company like Microsoft or Google. Let's create some stupid software for billions of dollars. They use their current startup ecosystem. Another aspect that I think is different, that if someone exited, the founders invest the money back into the ecosystem. And another, they are very let's say connected. If so, for example, if I am looking for a database provider, I can find a company that can give. There are a little bit more trust between people than in Bulgaria. I'm not expert in that. I just think that if you follow the simple steps, I'm not expert. We can do it.
So perhaps maybe building on this, since we're talking a lot about talent and advantages, I wanted to also ask you guys, what was the impact of the last 2 months on your teams, and how did you manage that? Do you see anything, or what is different when we talk about your product teams, the product culture, and what is the new normal in your opinion, and what challenges do you foresee in the future? Because we are now starting to change the way we work, the way we function daily.
In my view, as a workflow in One4Fit, we become more independent, let's say, because before that crisis, we were stuck in our office and we were like, we can't live, we can't work without an office. And this crisis taught us that we can survive without a common space and without all these things. Of course, we're gonna bring back to normal, but now we know that we can work from wherever we want. You just need to make the right scheduling of everything. So this is the best lesson that I've learned from this as a workflow, I mean.
From my perspective, I think we should get used to uncertainty and chaos in terms of certain markets or certain verticals, especially in tourism, because in tourism and travel, the changes will be very big and they will last for, in my opinion, years to come. For example, the 9/11 event, which was a singular event. I mean, it didn't impact on the whole world travel per se. Actually caused the airline industry to recover 3 years afterwards. So 3 years after 9/11, the traffic went back to the previous rates. Nowadays, I think it would require at least 3 to 5 years. So this can impact many businesses, many business models. It can lead to consolidation and then remote culture for the team. A lot of innovation teams, particularly focus on testing, on the very quick implementation, on even we would want to go faster and to test more and to get used to the ever-changing dynamics of the industry. I think we should get used to that because it will make us more resilient, as you just mentioned.
So in my case, what I see, we move totally remotely. We start using different tools that assist our work, and what I see that the whole team is at least 20% more productive in this situation. I don't know why. Probably we don't spend time in traffic, but I can measure. I'm measure freak guy, so I can see the number of code lines and the number of the commits. It's about 20% increase when we move in to work remotely.
But you know that here our friends from the DevBG community would ask you, is number of lines of code really a good measure for this or not?
It's a quite good measure.
Okay. Okay.
Of course,
okay, guys.
it's more important, but the lines are good.
Okay. Maybe one last question from the people that are with us, and we can kind of conclude on this. Could you guys share more about your sources, which you read or watch or listen to in terms of product development or marketing or sales or anything that helps you in your fields? Kind of as recommendations on the community to check those out?
I'm so exhausted of new information. So these days I'm a part of it, I don't know, million groups, and all the people are just writing. But these days I was focused maybe this month, I guess, more into investment people who are speaking about the investments and what is going to be on the market and whatever, what kind of forecast, everything about that, instead of product and business developing guys. Maybe I can suggest Mike Maloney if it's about this. I like that guy very much.
Sounds good. You're on mute.
I also agree here with Vizo because the macro perspective is very important, and I personally follow the macro environment, and some of the people that because the macro environment actually gives early hints on what changes in the supply demand curves in certain verticals. And basically gives hints to certain companies that might run into trouble because of their business models. Because I would advise people just to get acquainted on the macro perspective, especially when it comes to their industry. Yeah, I mean. It really depends on the industry. I personally follow a channel called Real Vision. They have pretty good analysis on plenty of topics when it comes to economy and macro perspective. So especially when it comes to airlines, I'm very interested to what these guys can say. And for our industry, there is also data providers that hold webinars, which give details and detailed information on the pulse of the market, on the demand and the supply sides of the airline industry. So it will be very, very specific per industry, but the macro knowledge is a must in my opinion.
Yeah, I as a tech guy, I'm focused more or less on technology than a product development. So it's crucial for our product to work well with millions of requests per day. So my sources are hundreds, but what I follow is I always try to learn something that is practically not related to our business on a monthly basis. So for example, I can start a new language, or I start a course for drawing. I think it's a very good to shape your business and to shape your product, just doing something that is not so related in your everyday work. So just play music or start some sports, whatever. I think that this can enrich this can help you to think out of the box.
Okay. Thank you, guys. I think we are nearing the end, and thank you for being with us. For everyone else that was watching, stay tuned. We'll be announcing tomorrow new events in the community with other really experienced and interesting guests like the three you had tonight. And I think that's it. Have a great night, everyone. Thanks once again to Vizo, Miro, and Roska. And see you guys around. Good luck with your businesses.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.